Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have an incredible guest joining me at this time who I'm excited to have on the podcast. On April 25th, Blacklist Union released their latest single entitled Mississippi Moonhound. Please welcome the lead vocalist for Blacklist Union, Tony West.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me.
Of course. I know we obviously got a lot to discuss with Blacklist Union. You guys obviously been very busy with the new single. Plus, you guys got an upcoming album set to be released later this year. But I'm curious,
Yes.
focusing on the single. So, if anyone has not checked this out yet, what can they expect?
They can expect fire. We bring the fire, man. You know what I mean? And we're carrying the torch for rock and roll. I mean, there's lots of bands that do, but we're definitely carrying the torch for rock and roll and LA rock and roll, who has this, this stigma of being this kind of glammy, not so good place for music nowadays, and that's just not the case. So
I really like it. Obviously, with the new single, you guys got some obviously just that the rock and roll, as you said, the fire, the killer elements. Like honestly, it's one of my out of the Blacklist Union catalogs, definitely one of my favorite songs you guys have released because it just has that kind of just rock and roll punch you in the face kind of like style to it.
yeah, thank you. I mean, there's a lot of punk rock roots in us too. Like, a lot of our stuff's up tempo, but it's funny because I say that, but then we have songs like Dirty Halo and stuff from our last record, or Dancing with the Angels, which have like a Love Bone vibe. Mother Love Bone was one of my biggest influences as a kid, like, which made me want to become a singer. So, but yeah, thank you.
Of course, of course. So like, and obviously like with the single. Kind of going along with that, I said it's going to be released on the an upcoming album. You guys have in the works entitled "Slay the Dragon." So, like with this album, like I really enjoyed the previous album, "Letters from the Psych Ward." So, is it
Thank
like
you.
going to be like a similar like style? Are you guys exploring new elements? Like, what can people expect from the album?
Well, I mean, we have our own niche, we have our own sound. We don't really stray too much from that, but like I said, they can expect kick ass rock and roll and fire, and a lot of our songs, so much is it's very spiritual and healing. I've gone to the most gnarly place you can go to heal and do all those things. So, we've consistently put out kick ass rock and roll records, and that's what we're gonna do again. So that's what they can expect.
Right on, right on. So like, and like the writing and recording process, like for this upcoming album, like what is it? What is the process like for the band?
That's my favorite part of the whole, the music business. I kind of leave that up to our manager, but like, I just love writing, I love recording, and I love performing. I love the whole thing of it, but I just lost my train of thought. What was the question again? Sorry.
All good, all good. I was asking for this album, what was the writing and recording
Oh,
process like?
so on the Back to Momo record, I wrote that with Todd Youth, and if you Google Todd Youth, he did a lot of things in his life, and he was my songwriting partner, and that's finding a songwriting partner is like trying to find a wife. Like, it's very difficult, you know what I mean? And me and Todd had an extraordinary writing relationship and friendship, and I didn't have to tell him, like, check out Turbo Negro from Norway, or check out GBH, or check out this AC/DC record. Like, he already had that. Like, I didn't have to school him. In fact, he schooled me on many things, and he unfortunately passed away in 2018, which we had a big break in between the Momo record and the Psych Ward record. Because of Todd's death for one, and then I was like, what am I gonna do now? And it was really difficult to find a songwriting partner. And so I just went back to our producer, who's been the producer of all six of our records now, and I was like, and Letters from the Psych Ward was the fifth one. I was like, why don't we just write the record? So I've been writing with Chris Johnson, who I've known for a very long time, who is the sixth member of Blacklist Union. But he'll send me music, and I'll write to it basically, and then we kind of collaborate, on the arrangements and so forth. And but primarily he sends the music, and I write all the melodies and lyrics, and I love that stuff. I consider myself a wordsmith, and I don't say that lightly. Like, you better have the juice to back it up if you say, you're something. And that's one of my favorite things is writing. I remember when I was in high school, I had this English teacher. He was from Ireland, Mr. Mitchell, and I wouldn't come to class because I had better shit to do. So I thought, and but I would do the assignments, the English assignments, because I just loved to write, And this teacher would hunt me down, dude, in the hallway and, in the back of the school where I hung out smoking weed with all my degenerate friends. And he'd be like, Tony, why don't you come to class? Like, you're a great writer. And I was like, well, I have better things to do. So I thought, but he was right. But my point is, I've always loved writing, and especially lyrics, because I was a kid, man. Like, that shit affected my whole life. I mean, obviously it shaped my whole life. And I know there's people out there, in fact, most people that are affected very deeply by lyrics, you know what I mean? And so I just love that whole process.
Oh, it definitely sounds like it, and obviously I can see it, through the songs that you have written. So, like, with that, like, obviously with your love for writing, do you ever experience writer's block?
It comes in waves to, it just comes in waves. Like, I've been sitting on this one song, this one ballad song for a few months now, and it just comes in waves. And then I noticed too, like, it's work, man. It's hard work. Like, the one of the singles is going to be the third single on this record, Slay the Dragon. It's called I'm Done Dying. I'm Done Dying. And but like, I had written the chorus for that one, right? And man, as soon as I wrote it, like, I never had the experience like this, where I wrote this chorus and I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is a fucking hit song right here. And the verses were so hard to write. Like, I was like, and I put it to the side for a while. And then I was like, no, 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 I gotta get that. I gotta write the verses because the chorus was so good. And it took a couple rewrites. But man, I just, like I said, I love that process, and it takes a lot of energy, to do that. And sometimes it takes rewrites, and you know, putting everything under the microscope, and I'm very meticulous, and almost I was gonna say almost a perfectionist, but it's safe to say I am a perfectionist, especially with art and music, Um, but yeah.
Well, no, it is really cool, and obviously, like, your dedication and passion, as I said, it shows, through the Blacklist Union music. But you did, touch on like being a perfectionist. So, like, with that, like, how do you know when a song is complete, that you're satisfied with it?
I mean, you just know. It's just It's funny because that one song I was telling you about, like, it took a minute to write it, but sometimes, boom, it just comes. And I love when that happens because it makes my job way easier. But and then the inspiration I pull, like, I've been to the Amazon jungle with the Shipibo Indians. Like, so after Todd died, I was like, man, I can't let this ruin my life, because if you really know the Blacklist Union records, the first one was about my girlfriend who died, you know. The and third one were about my first wife died. So, and that shit fucked me up for a long time, man. And we all have profound losses in our life, which is so, I mean, man, it changes your fucking life entirely and turns it upside down. And it takes a long time to heal from that shit. So when Todd died, I was like, man, there's no way I can let this ruin my life, like, my girlfriend, my first wife's deaths did. And I knew Todd since I was 15. And So I had a friend who knew Todd too, and he was like, "Dude, you got to do ayahuasca. It's spiritual medicine. It's not drugs. Blah blah blah." I'm like, "Look, dude, I can't do drugs." He's like, "It's not drugs." So I researched and found the grand poobah of and the real place of where this shit goes down, and I found the Shipibo Indians in Peru, ayahuasca, and I went there, right after Todd died, and I can tell you that's not drugs. It is spiritual medicine. There is not, and I've done every drug on the planet. I've been sober for a while, but that shit's not drugs. It is medicine, truly. And so the last two records, so much of my inspiration has come from those experiences because I was able to heal so much sorrow. I didn't know. I knew I had sorrow, but I didn't know how much. Like it was just debilitating, and not only from the deaths, but my childhood was gnarly too, so I had all this sorrow and pain and grief and all this stuff where I always say, like, I'm not Gandhi, and I'm not like floating away, you know what I mean, but I have been able to let go of so much because of those experiences. And the songs on the Psych Ward record and now Slay the Dragon, it's almost like therapeutic because it reminds me of things of how to deal, because we're human, man. We're fallible. We forget. I'm the most forgetful dude ever. It's like I forget shit, and but like with the songs, it reminds me of how to deal with life and how to heal. And it resonates. These two records have hit harder than any of our records before, and the message of healing and going through things as a human, I think it resonates and hits people because everything's frequency and vibration, so it resonates and hits people and they don't even know why. You know what I'm saying? But those messages are in there and it's universal, man. It's like everybody needs healing to some degree. Everybody has their pain, their cross to bear and shit. You know what I mean? I know I certainly do. Even my kids do. My kids are young. Like my son's 18, my daughter's going to be 13. And I wish I could shield them from that shit. You know what I mean? Like I would protect them and lay down my life for them. But as a human, as a spiritual being having a human experience, that's just part of the journey, man. And it's rough, man. It's rough sometimes. So I hope that our music can. And I've gotten emails from people, dude, where they said, "I played your song at my loved one's funeral," or "Your song has helped me through this," or whatever. And that's really the most important thing, dude. You know.
No,
So
it definitely is, and like with music, like I've talked about this in other interviews and other writings and stuff, that it's a universal language that connects people and allows people to express feelings or emotions that it's not like the no other outlets are proper for them, or they're not even realizing they have these kind of feelings and emotions. That's what's so awesome about music, is
right.
that it's an outlet for these people.
Yeah, man. And when I was a kid, I needed that shit to survive. Music was my survival like tools. That was my, that's what I had to get me out of this fucked up, abusive, homes that I lived in with my mother and father and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? And I literally I learned so much from music. I learned everything from music. And music's a frequency and a vibration. The whole universe is frequency and vibrations. You know what I'm saying? So, I gotta resonate on a higher vibration. I do my best to do that, and the music definitely helps. So
Oh yeah, it definitely does. But as we're starting to close out this interview, I do have a few topics I did want to cover before we head out. So I'm curious, you obviously with performing, we talked about a lot about recording music, but I also wanted to touch on the performance side. So like, I'm curious for you, do you have a favorite Blacklist Union song to perform live?
I mean, I love so many of our songs. Dirty Halo is a very special song to me. Um, I love singing Letters from the Psych Ward. I love singing Mississippi Moonhound and Up in Smoke, which is going to be our next single. We've been playing those songs for a year now live. But I have to say that out of, I've done 9 records, 6 with Blacklist Union, and Dirty Halo is probably my favorite song ever recorded because it's so deep and it touches on so much and so many people that I love who are on the other side, and it's a very deep, very Mother Love Bone influenced song too. But man, live, if you haven't seen us live, like my goal is to make, live, I want to, I want to hear it just as good as the record or better than the record when I go see a band. And I can promise you that we do that, and I don't know, that's a rare thing. Like when I go see a band, like I want to, you got to bring the wow factor. That's why I tell my band, like we want people to walk away saying, wow, and I can count the times on one hand that I did that, you know, that I've done that personally, seeing other bands. Turbo Negro was one of them. Growing up in New York, seeing the Ramones or the Bad Brains. Uh, but man, the wow factor, and we bring it, and I'm proud to say that. Like I don't say that lightly, and you know, if you say that, you better bring it too. You know what I mean? So.
Oh no, for sure. And obviously, I've heard great things about your live set, your live performance, and you're definitely one of the bands. If you ever come to the Midwest, I'd love to see you guys live.
Thank you. Yeah.
So now, as we're starting to close out this interview, so like, what are the plans for Blacklist Union for the rest of 2025? How's the rest of the year looking like for you guys?
We got a couple hometown gigs coming up. We've been trying to get to the UK and Europe, which Mississippi Moonhound is blowing up over there. So hopefully that's going to happen soon. And just, finishing up the record. It's 90% done, so now we got to do all the artwork and all that stuff, which that's like my favorite part, I doing all that stuff. And because when I was a kid, I was reading the liner notes and looking at all the art. Like there's still some of us, that like that. So I'm one still, so that's basically what we're doing. We can't wait to get on tour. Hopefully, we're going to be doing some tour dates again with Texas Hippie Coalition, who we love. We just got off the road with the Dead Boys, who are a legendary punk rock band. And that story's funny because my friend was like, Tony, I never heard your band. She's like, but my friend Cheetah loves you. Like, do you know him? And I said, no. I said, the only Cheetah I know is Cheetah Chrome from the Dead Boys. And she goes, that's him. I'm like, wait, he told you about me? And she's like, yeah. So then we ended up doing some dates with them, which was amazing, So, but yeah.
Well, yeah, for now, I've had the opportunity to interview, meet Cheetah Chrome, interview him, with Dead Boys, and he's just amazing. He's
Yeah.
incredible. Him and his band are incredible people.
Dude, the singer was so good too. But I guess he quit, Jake or
Jake
whatever.
Hout, yep.
Man, he did such a great job, and he was such a nice guy too. But he really, really had it down, So.
Oh yeah, for sure. He had that energy, the vocal. He was incredible. So obviously, I know a lot going on with that, and I'm not going to touch on that,
Right.
but yeah, it's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, shit happens. It's rock and roll. So.
Exactly. But now, as we close out this interview, Tony, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed chatting with you about Blacklist Union and everything you have in the works for this year as well. I will leave some links for Blacklist Union in the description of this podcast. Please check out and support them. Make sure to see live if they're at a show near you. But Tony, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, for Tony West, I'm your host as always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.